Welcome to Vale United Methodist Church Online. This is our weekly sermon from Pastor Jeff Haugh. Welcome. This is our worship service for January 19th of 2020. It is the second Sunday after the Epiphany. Our sermon topic is our call as elder. And the question is, how is God calling you, and how are you going to respond? But first, our scripture. This is 1 Samuel chapter 3, verses 1 through 10, taken from the Common English Bible. Now, the boy Samuel was serving the Lord under Eli. The Lord's word was rare at that time, and visions weren't widely known. One day, Eli, whose eyes had grown so weak he was unable to see, was lying down in his room. God's lamp hadn't gone out yet, and Samuel was lying down in the Lord's temple, where God's chest was. The Lord called to Samuel. "I'm here," he said. Samuel hurried to Eli and said, "I'm here. You called me?" "I didn't call you," Eli replied. "Go lie down." So he did. Again, the Lord called Samuel, so Samuel got up and went to Eli and said, "I'm here. You called me?" "I didn't call, my son," Eli replied. "Go and lie down." Now Samuel didn't yet know the Lord, and the Lord's word hadn't yet been revealed to him. A third time the Lord called Samuel. He got up, went to Eli, and said, "I'm here. You called me?" Then Eli realized that it was the Lord who was calling the boy. So Eli said to Samuel, "Go and lie down. If he calls you, say, 'Speak, Lord, your servant is listening.'" So Samuel went and lay down where he'd been. Then the Lord came and stood there, calling just as before, "Samuel, Samuel." Samuel said, "Speak, your servant is listening." For God's gift of Scripture, we give thanks. Amen.
If you're only following us on YouTube, you will not have seen the last two Sundays. Actually, we have it recorded at church if you want to see it. Anyway, we've been talking about the different roles within the church. 2 weeks ago, Joanna Dietz shared her role as a deacon and the ordination of her and the role that she does, and deacons serve to connect the world and the church. They're called into do that, and you'll see a lot of deacons serving in a lot of ministries outside of the local church. Some serve within. Joanna serves in the conference office in administrative capacity, but she has certainly done many other things. Last week, Tom Feeney and Dorothy Arbiter shared their was as laity and the ministry that they do and how they serve God in that way. And today I want to talk about the role of the ordained elder. And typically, when you think of a pastor, that's what you think of. In the United Methodist Church, I am an elder. I am ordained. I don't have it. No, I do have it. I'm sorry. I have this certificate on my wall. It's a genealogy of ordination, and it starts up here at the top with John Wesley, who ordained Thomas Coke, who ordained Francis Asbury, and you go through this list down to Bishop Joe Pennell, who ordained me back in 2004. Set that over there. And now, just for sake of completeness here, the United Methodist Church does have pastors who are not ordained. They are licensed local pastors or associate members of the annual conference, and they are licensed to perform the sacraments within the confines of their ministry, so they can serve communion in their church. That's a whole other issue and kind of some technical detail that's helpful and good, but not really important to our issue here. What I want to share is that elders are ordained, called by God, and affirmed by the church to word sacrament. I'm sorry about that, Joanna. Word, sacrament, and order. The signs of ordination are, and you can see the tab collar. You know, think of the Catholic priests often wear these, and but Methodists do too, obviously, since I have one. More commonly, an ordained elder will wear a stole, and you know, this is what you think of with all the robes. And this stole is a sign of ordination. And the yoke of ministry. When Bishop Pennell put this on me, he tugged on it. This is the yoke. This is the challenge, the job that the church is ordaining you to do. And so when I perform the sacraments, communion, baptism, I will almost always wear one of those symbols. Normally in church on Sunday it will be a stole, and normally white for communion, not necessarily. I'll wear the collar when I want to be clearly recognized as clergy in a different setting, blessing of the animals, for instance. Or perhaps in the summertime when things are a little casual, a little warm, to wear the stole and all, the robe and the stole. I'll wear the tabbed collar. Again, as a sign of the ordination and the calling, the challenge by the church to perform the sacraments. Elders are also called to proclaim the word, and typically through preaching. Some clergy do that through writing and other means, typically preaching. Also to order, to administer the church. So to be a district superintendent, to oversee other churches, you have to be an elder. We are in the Arlington district. Sarah Calvert is our district superintendent. She is not ordained to that. She's appointed there by the bishop. And after she serves her term, she could quite easily go back into the local church and get appointed here even, or someplace like that. Oftentimes, they're later in life, and district superintendents retire, but many of them also go back into the local church. Bishops who oversee the conference also must be an elder. That's the sole qualification to be a bishop, is to be an elder. Now, I explained all this, and I want to cover this not as a hierarchy. It's not that one role is better than the other and you move from it. No, they're just different. And they're different expressions of the way that we live out God's call to us. I'm not saying that everybody needs to be an elder or a deacon or a layperson. I'm saying that each must listen and hear what God is saying so that they can live out the role that God is calling them to. So let me share my story of my call, because I think that might be helpful to us. I grew up in the Methodist Church. I remember attending at Bethel UMC in Columbia, South Carolina, when I was in elementary school, and then we moved up here, and we became. I was confirmed at St. Stephen's over there off Braddock Road near Guinea, and my parents, my family was very active in the church, and in the youth group, in the choir. We went on retreats. My friends from school were friends from church. We did things together. And friends from school also were involved were faithful Christians. We had a Bible study. We attended a Saturday night church service. Another story there. We were active and engaged, and felt this is what God is calling us to do, to live out our faith in the world. My sister Kelly is 3 years older than me, and when she was in college, she felt a call to the ministry. And I thought that was great. I had never been taught wrongly that women can't be ministers. I never thought she couldn't or shouldn't. I thought that was great. I thought she had the gifts and graces for ministry, and that's been true. She's done really well. She's had a wonderful life of ministry, and in fact, right now she is serving as a district superintendent in the North Alabama Conference. But that wasn't me. And it never occurred to me that God was calling me into the ministry. Again, I saw Kelly and I thought, oh, boy, that matches up with what a pastor should do. And those aren't my gifts. Mine are different. I was going to be an engineer. That's what I was good at, what I enjoyed, and what I wanted to do. As I was winding down my college career, my pastor back at St. Stephen's, Sam Neesmith, started to encourage me to look at the mission field, to go and serve God as a layperson in the mission field. And I thought that was a neat idea. I was open to that. But as I looked and researched, I didn't see anybody, any mission work that wanted a novice, a young engineer. They would take some that were experienced to do some things, but they didn't want to train somebody. And that's not where I felt God was calling me to use my gifts and graces. So I didn't go into the mission field. Got married, raised kids, but still active in the church. And we were in the choir. We attended regularly. We supported the church. I was involved in disciple Bible study, a wonderful program, and taking it and then teaching it, and even when we were in Florida, coordinated all the disciple. It was a huge church. I think we had 10 different disciple groups going at one point, and I was coordinating that, managing that process. I went on retreats and somewhat with the men's group at that church in Florida, and I felt at times God was calling me and pulling me to something, but I didn't know what it was. And this is why I've selected the Samuel passage. Here was Samuel. He was a young man, a young boy. He was dedicated to God and going to serve God, but he didn't know God's voice. And when God spoke to him, he didn't recognize it. And it took Eli, the priest, a while to figure that out. And I can resonate with that. I didn't figure it out. But then at one retreat, and this had nothing to do with what the speaker was talking about, but all of a sudden I just knew that God was calling me to the ministry. Now, I think God speaks to us in lots of ways. People hear it differently. Some people hear a voice. Some people have a sense, a strong feeling, but this was just a fact I suddenly knew. I mean, just as clear to me as the sky is blue. God was calling me to the ministry, and I was excited by that. I thought it was great. I thought it was wonderful. And I was like, wow. So again, in the Methodist Church, we have a process. We're methodical about stuff, and one of the steps was to go to the staff parish committee of the church and have them give their approval. And I met with them, and they turned me down, and I was shocked. Something that was so clear to me, and I thought I had conveyed it quite strongly, and yet they weren't seeing what I was seeing, and I struggled with that. And spent a lot of time in prayer and reflection and talking with the senior pastor, and I think a couple things were going on there. One may have been my choice of language. I was using, I would say something like, I believe God is calling me to the ministry. And I used that word, believe, in the sense of a faith statement. That, I can't prove this, I can't demonstrate, I can't draw a picture of it, but I believe it. And I think they were hearing some hesitancy on my part, that, yeah, this may be what I need to do. I believe I'll have, fries with that. So I think that was part of the problem, was my own language. I think the other issue was there had been a gentleman in the church who was still active at the church who had actually followed the path of a call, and again, I don't know all the details. And I knew him, but not real well. And he ended up going to seminary, but not getting into the ministry, and that was painful. And I think they didn't want to repeat that, so that's why they turned me down. But when I came back the next year, they were like, okay, maybe there's something here, and I think that was helpful. So quit the job, packed up the family, moved, and went to seminary. Seminary was a different experience for me. I had been out of school for 10 years. In engineering school is very different from divinity school. Engineering, you read a book and you're looking at these are the things you need to know. These are the steps you follow, A, B, C, and D, and this is the product. At seminary, it was far different, and these are my ideas, these are my thoughts. How do you think? What do they cause you to think about? And just a very different way. And it was hard, but I knew I was where God had called me to be. I knew that this was a step that I needed to take to get through to go into ministry. And I had faith. I knew, not just believed. We use the word knew. I knew that God had not given me something beyond what I could handle, that I could do. And I don't have to be a straight A student. I have to do my best. Do God and do the work and learn what I can and take the most advantage of that opportunity. And I got through seminary. And I went on to my first appointment. And that wasn't always perfect. Never is. There were some struggles and there was some pushback on me from some members of the church. And that was hard too. Because I thought, you know what, I'm trying. And again, I went back to that call. And God is calling me. I am where God is calling me to be. I'm doing the work God calls me to do. I don't need your approval. Even if I want it, that's not what's important here. I will accept your guidance. I will listen to your comments. I don't need your approval. Because I have God's. And I'm doing what God is calling me to do. And having that call in my heart helped me get through that. And to go forward. And I truly believe, even here and now, this is where God has called me to be. And I don't know what's going to happen next week or next month or next year. I don't care. Here and now, this is where God calls me to be. That's what's important. I hope this is helpful to you. I hope that you will see, as we've talked about these different ways to live out our call, that you will think about your own call. Because we have to understand it. And when we understand it, it gives us faith to act, to live out that call. I hope that the church, and Vale especially, is a place where you can nourish your call and grow and live it out. And if God is calling you to become a deacon or an elder or a licensed local pastor or just a lay person, without a title, that's okay. That's not just a lay person, but a lay person called to do God's work, because we all are. I don't care if God's calling you to full-time ministry or not. What I care about is, are you hearing what God is calling you to do? If you're 8 years old or 80 years old, there is work in the kingdom of God for you. for your unique gifts, for your unique experiences. I'm not my sister Kelly. She has a set of gifts and graces and has taken those to fruitful ministry. I have a different set, and I've taken those to a fruitful ministry. That's what's important. In a little while in our service, we're going to have this Wesleyan Covenant service and invite you to make a renewal of your faith. And if you're looking at this online, you need to do a search on Wesley's Covenant service. And think about those words and those promises, those challenges. Because God is calling. How are you going to respond? Will you pray with me? Lord, teach us your will. Nothing more, nothing less, nothing else. Amen.
I thank you for watching this video podcast and invite you to join us. We have worship, traditional worship in our sanctuary at 8:30 and 10. Our youth-led parallel service also at 10. We're located at 11528 Vale Road in Oakton, Virginia. You can check us out on our website at valechurch.org. May God bless you in all that you do.